So there's a saying, if you want to take down an enemy target, send the Navy SEALs. If you want to take down a government, send the Delta Force. Tim Kennedy, one of the deadliest men on the face of this earth, a former Delta Force operator, a former MMA fighter, a very intelligent man. And you can see the difference here. No disrespect to the Navy SEALs, but the Delta Force, it's like the difference between the Shaheed 13 in Israel to the Sayyidat Matkal. On top of being very, very lethal, they're also very intelligent and can articulate a point very, very well in very convincing manner. And finally, we get to see someone putting some sense into the head of Joe Rogan. No disrespect, I like Joe Rogan, but his choice of guests for the last several months were very, very surprising. Brilliantly explaining to Joe the whole conflict between Israel and Palestine, Israel and Hamas. So without further ado, let's jump into the video.
You know, look, there's a reality of Gaza, that Gaza is essentially like an open-air prison. That is a reality.
Yeah.
Those people are fucked. They're stuck there. And there doesn't seem to be like a really good solution on the table. You know, and I don't know what can be done, especially now, to change that. That's true. That is true. And there is a hostility, a deep hostility between the Israelis and the Palestinians on both sides. It's palpable. I've seen many videos of atrocities being committed by both sides, which is just a horrible consequence of war and conflict.
What do you think? I'm Israel. You're the Palestinians in Gaza. If every one of the people in Gaza laid down the arms and stopped attacking, what would Israel, do to you?
Nothing.
It's a good question.
Nothing. They've tried it 5 different times. They've literally stop attacking. Israel has never, not one time in history, initiated any conflict. Every single one of those things that you're pointing to is a retaliatory attack by a terrorist organization.
That's why, by the way, it's called the IDF, the Israel Defense Force, and that's the whole purpose of the IDF. I know it because I was an officer in the IDF. I was teaching that philosophy to my soldier. It's about defending Israel. Yes, sometimes you need to pre-attack the enemy while they're preparing to come and attack you, but that's still a defensive move. You understand my point? So anyway, brilliant. This guy, he knows how to talk.
But if that was switched, where I, Israel, you, Hamas in Gaza, I take all of my arms and all of my protection and I laid them down, what would Hamas do?
Genocide.
They would kill every single one of us. That's what they do. That's what they're sworn to do. That's their motto and the origin of their existence, all the way back to the Grand Mufti traveling to Hitler to ask, how do we solve the Jewish problem? Like, you want to follow from the Hamas to the Muslim Brotherhood, all the way back to the Grand Mufti, to Mujahideen, and you see the origins of one thing, which is, how do I solve the Jewish problem, is to eradicate and kill them. That is what Hamas came from. Not the Palestinians, not those poor people stuck in Gaza. But in that problem, if all of Hamas just went away, we would have peace. If they laid down their arms and they stopped murdering innocent civilians and raping women and killing babies, you'd have peace. If the other side laid down their arms, they would all be murdered, all 7.5 million of them, until they just were walking in blood through the Jordan River.
It's crazy because actually Hamas is still saying that. And many Palestinians, when you see interviews with them, they're still calling for that. From children. Children are saying that. Kinder-age kids are saying that. That's how radical that culture have become. And this is what Israel is dealing with.
How do you solve this problem? The radicals have to be eliminated. The terrorists have to go away. That is not, I'm not conflating the Palestinians and the terrorists. Those are separate things. But if there's 2.5 million people that are living in Gaza that are allowing 30,000 terrorists to run them, at some point, the olive branch cannot be extended from Israel when 30,000 people are using that region to launch attacks into their sovereign nation.
And we were talking about the propaganda that exists in America. What about the propaganda that exists in Palestine? I mean, what is their thought?
Oh, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Well, first of all, Tim Kennedy here did a great job. Now, I like Joe Rogan, but like I said in the last few episodes, he's been having people like Dave Smith and others that are saying that they can talk whatever they want, anti-Israel, anti-America in some ways. But then they say, I'm not an expert, and keep using that. And Joe Rogan was defending that guy, saying, yeah, well, you can talk whatever you want if you're not an expert. Yes, absolutely. But if you start going into a channel with so many views and so many people listening to you and you're obsessed with something, keep talking about it, you better be an expert. Otherwise, you're going to be talking nonsense and you're going to be lying or confusing people. And Tim Kennedy is definitely an expert to the things that he's talking about. You know, he have very rich experience from the Delta Force and from traveling all around the world and leading help and rescue organization. He have his own company that does these things and education. He's building schools. So the guy is kind of an expert in the field of warfare, definitely, and also field of understanding humanitarian aspect, because the Delta Force, these units, they're not only involved in fighting. I've seen the Delta Force when they came to Israel to train with us a few times. They were very impressive individuals. You didn't just get the feeling like it's a cage warrior. We call it in Israel Safra and Saifa. That's what they taught me when I was an officer course. Safra means book, Saifa means sword. And the idea was that you need to be a philosopher warrior, someone who's very smart and who can understand the situation and know how to diffuse the situation without the use of violence even, and also raise future generations to become better humans, better versions of themselves. Someone who is just a very good, intelligent philosopher, and also someone who's a very strong warrior. It's like that saying, it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener at war, which kind of means it's better to be a warrior and a gardener together, so you can do both. Let me tell you something about the propaganda that the West and the pro-Palestinians is just full on lying to you. I'm an Arab, born and raised in Israel. I served as an officer in the IDF. I was in the special forces in the IDF. And here is my personal experience of the Israeli and the Palestinian conflict based on the 42 years that I've been alive. When I was a kid, I remember my father taking me to Gaza and to Ramallah freely to go and eat some fish, eat some knafe, visit the beach. They have beautiful beaches in Gaza. I've seen them when I was a kid. I've seen them when I was a soldier there. And I remember Palestinians coming from the West Bank and Gaza freely into Israel. They were working with my father in Haifa. They were working in all around Israel. There were no checkpoints. There were literally no checkpoints, and it seemed to be relatively peaceful compared to today. And then what happened? Yasser Arafat and his goons started this whole Intifada revolution and this whole Muslim Brotherhood incitement, reviving the Palestinian cause, which was to destroy Israel from the start. Don't let anyone fool you about that. That's why the Palestinian Mufti, the Palestinian religious Muslim leader, went and met with Hitler, because they wanted to discuss how to solve the Jewish problem and how can they be helpful to the big empire that is rising to take over the world. We'll help you guys. We're your friends. Let us help you clean Israel out of the Jews. So you kill them all in Europe, we kill them all in Israel, and we get rid of them completely. That was literally, in some ways, founding pillars in the Palestinian society, which is very problematic. Now, I'm not saying that every Palestinian wants to kill and exterminate all the Jews. We need to differentiate between ideological movement of a group of people into the individuals that might be living in it and do not agree with where that is trying to go. Anyway, back to Palestinians coming to Israel. Israel is going to Palestine. Everyone is happy eating baklava and knafe. Then all of a sudden, we started having intifada with suicide bombings, stabbing, shooting in the streets. I'm talking on a weekly base. People who are living in Jerusalem, in Tel Aviv, were seeing buses being exploding in front of our eyes, body parts scattered all over the trees, Kadisha people going around picking skin parts just so they can give these poor people a proper burial. Suicide bombers were going to weddings, were going to kindergartens, to schools, to coffee shops. It was unbearable. And Israel had to make a decision to defend its own people. So what they started to do is they started to do what we call today these checkpoints, that people like to say that they're evil, but you have to understand, every action got a reaction. It wasn't there before, and it happened because Israel had to do something to defend itself, which might happen to you in the US or in Europe right now because you're allowing these intifada people to come into your country. But it was not as you see it today. It was graduating. Every action led to a reaction. In the beginning, Israel was having random police or military cars standing between Israel and Palestine, stopping cars and checking IDs and checking military-aged males to see that they're not carrying weapons on them and that they're not carrying suicide bombs bombing vests on them as they're coming to so-called enjoy a vacation in Israel or to go and work in Israel. So what happened, the Palestinians started using women. So they started bringing these vests and these weapons on women, and the Intifada continued. So Israel started checking men and women. And then what they started doing, they started putting it on pregnant women. And there's a few instances where a pregnant woman was coming pretending to be in pain, and then some Israeli soldiers will go to help her, and she'll go Allahu Akbar and kill them all. So Israel said, enough is enough. We're going to check now men, women, and pregnant women. And then they started using children. I remember, I've seen it with my own eyes. A 5-year-old kid with a kindergarten backpack was stopped outside of a checkpoint, and he was terrified. He seems to be completely confused and scared. Israel suspected that he might have had a bomb in his backpack. So what they did is they went and immediately stopped the line a few hundred meters before him and a few hundred meters after him, and used the technology to block the signal from any cellular phone being activated in the area. So no one can activate the bomb that he's having in his lunchbox. Now, here is how the media has been fooling you people in the West for so long. Israel sent a police robot to go and take away that backpack from the kid and save the lives of the kid. On top of that, the forces that were blocking the roads were there to actually prevent any innocent people coming in the area of that kid, because that was a Palestinian checkpoint, meaning if he would blow himself up there, he's probably going to kill 2 to 3 soldiers and maybe 10 to 20 Palestinians. So now you have soldiers stopping cars, and you have French and European and American journalists filming it and saying, oh, look at that, the evil occupation. They're stopping these poor Palestinians who are just trying to make a living. And then you have the robot coming to the kid. Now, this robot have a flashlight, have a hand like a clamp, and have a shotgun. The shotgun's purpose is literally, once you take an IED and you put it away, you come and you shoot it and it explodes, and then you save human lives that are going to come close to it. So this robot is coming to take the backpack from the kid, and the kid is crying. The kid is terrified because he's seeing this war machine coming at him. And again, the media focus the camera only on the kid, and then a picture. A robot hand, IDF, military-graded equipment, a Palestinian kid terrified. Israel is attacking Palestinian children, I don't know what, and the media go crazy. They take the backpack. By the way, the Palestinian men who sent that kid to make him a martyr was trying to activate the IED that was in his backpack, was trying to activate it, and it wasn't able because Israel used a signal blocker, so they saved that kid. And then Israeli soldiers came and took the kid, brought him to social workers, started giving him care and aid, and was looking for how can they bring that kid back to his family. Now, out of all of this, Israel came as the bad guy, the Palestinians came as the good guy, as the innocent victims. So what happened next? Now Israel is checking men, women, pregnant ladies, old people, and children, and the Intifada kept going on. The suicide bombing kept going on. Innocent people were being killed in the streets, just going on a vacation, birthday parties, weddings. There was a birthday party, I think, that they had the entire family eliminated in one suicide Intifada revolution Allahu Akbar attack. The entire family disappeared because he just went in and killed everybody in the happiest day of their life. I think it was a bar mitzvah. Long story short, came a point that Israel said, enough is enough. This is not working. These people just don't care about dying. They don't care about killing their own children. They just want to kill and annihilate all of us. So what we're going to do, we're going to build a wall. We're going to build a wall that is going to separate us. You are there. We are here. Give us a wall. That's it. And Israel did the wall. Again, the media comes, film the wall. It's an apartheid state. It's the Berlin Wall, and start giving all this kind of false narrative propaganda. And to someone who's not living in Israel, who just see these images, it's very easy to play on your emotions. And then you get very emotionally involved, triggered, and it's easy to hate Israel because Israel is successful. Israel is happy. They're miserable. Yes, they're miserable because they're making themselves miserable and because they're just teaching death all along, while one side is teaching love, compassion, and everything else that you should teach in a Western society. Hence is why you should be very careful listening to the Western media, and it's sad as it to say, also very careful listening to many of the guests that Joe Rogan have been bringing to his show. I hope that he wakes up and understands that he needs to kind of balance things, because I think it's good to have that counter argument where you bring people from both sides so they can come and say their views so you can hear and kind of decide. But it seems like lately a lot of his guests are more into conspiracy theories and more into anti-Israel, pro-Russia, anti-America. Osama bin Laden was right, Hitler was not so wrong kind of mentality. And it's very sad to see that, because when Douglas Murray was there, he asked them very directly, seems like lately your guest is very like-minded about the whole issue of Israel and how they're trying to make it look like Israel is the bad guy and Israel is dragging America. into unnecessary wars and etc. Guys, no, Israel is literally standing in the front line with the war against radical Islam and jihadists. And if Israel will fall, I can assure you it's going to be in your doorstep. If it's not already in your doorstep, and it probably is. So I hope that Joe Rogan kind of wake up and understand right now that he needs to a little bit more balance his shows. Again, I love the dude. I think he's a very great podcast, and I think he's very necessary in this generation of woke and kind of mumbo jumbo lunatics going around on the internet. I think it's good to have some based kind of podcasters there that bring up very interesting discussions to the table and are trying not to be dragged by the right or the left and just kind of stay in the center and let's hear everybody out. So I kind of watched the whole Joe Rogan episode with Tim Kennedy. It's almost about 2 hours, and I cut it down and mushed it to the pieces that I think that will be most interesting for my viewers. And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna leave it in the next video and you can watch it. It's gonna be about 40 minutes of the topics that I think you will find interesting. So you can watch that in the next episode. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for sticking around. And like I always say, don't do anything stupid. And in general, just don't do. And in general, just don't support people that think that Hamas are freedom fighters. They're not good. It's very dangerous.